What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and welcome back to the Rumor Roundup, our weekly series where we cover all the news and rumors that you may have missed over the course of the week, and we have not done this in a long time. So for all the people who are new to the channel, the purpose of the Rumor Roundup is to cover all the news and rumors that you may have missed over the course of the week. Things that are cool that we may or may not make videos on, but it allows you guys to get caught up because there's just so much information out there. So, the first thing we really have to do to kick off this story, or at least this episode, we gotta talk about what it was that Jessica Gao said. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Jessica Gao is the producer behind the She-Hulk show, and she had basically talked about where it was that Bruce Banner's ship had gone at the end of episode 2. Now, we all kind of know it's going to Sakaar, right? It's a Sakarian ship. It's kind of hard to believe that the Sakarian ship is going to the planet of the Badoon. It'd be kind of cool if it did, but it's not going to happen. So we all know it's going back to Sakaar. However, when she was asked this question, Jessica Gao had this to say. Well, all I'll say is, he spent a lot of time off planet as we saw in Thor Ragnarok, and we only got to see a little tiny bit of what his life was like when he was on that planet. I mean, God knows what Hulk got up to in the years that he was there, so he's gotta go back and handle some off-world things that happened during that time. Now, on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. The Incredible Hulk is going back to Sakaar to handle some off-world stuff. However, if we read between the lines and we talk about the fact this is going towards the Planet Hulk, World War Hulk event most likely, what this seems to indicate, or possibly what we can allude to here, is that instead of the Incredible Hulk going back to the planet Sakaar and then helping to get rid of the Red King or whoever is ruling the planet in replacement of the Grandmaster following him being removed by the different rebels that were there, we could say the Incredible Hulk already had a family there. After all, when you're the gladiatorial champion of a war-torn world, it usually results in you getting laid. So it's not that far outside the realm of possibility that the Incredible Hulk was knocking some boots while he was on Sakaar, and he maybe popped out a kid. This means that Kyra could already exist there. It could mean that when he gets there, he actually has to deal with his son because he didn't know he had one. There's all kinds of different possibilities that go on, but what it does is it throws in this idea that instead of the Incredible Hulk going back to Sakaar to overthrow some king, instead the Incredible Hulk is going back to Sakaar to basically learn that he's got a family, and then we'll see how things unfold from there. Now, I still say that the events on Sakaar, however they unfold, will basically result in what's essentially Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, but I am curious to see how it unfolds. But the next story on our list here, Disney Plus confirms the release of 47 movies and shows that are coming to the platform in September. Now, most of them we don't really care anything about, but the ones that we do care about, and there's really only 3 of them, come in this order. September 8th, we get Thor: Love and Thunder. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm not surprised by the fact that this movie was basically rushed to Disney Plus. It wasn't that great. It could have been better, right? What is it, that Wonder Woman meme? It was good, but it could be better, right? I mean, it's entirely possible that, the movie was just enjoyable by the general audience. I'm not shutting that notion down, but as a comic book fan, and as somebody who really enjoyed Gore the God Butcher, I didn't really care about the tentacles on his head and the fact that he just had a nose as opposed to not having a nose, right? I didn't really care about the look. What I cared about was the character, and the reality is they just didn't really do the character justice. So it makes sense that given the rating of the film, given the general response to the film, that it's being rushed to Disney Plus, and they'll probably try to recoup some measure of their money there. But the next one that's coming out, which you may or may not care about, is also on September 8th, and that's Obi-Wan Kenobi: A Jedi's Return. Now, this is not a continuation of the show. In fact, it's not really tied into the show in any capacity, outside of the fact that it's just one of those things that Disney makes where they basically do a behind-the-scenes making of the show. Now, on the surface, it's easy to dismiss that. It's easy to look at that and say, like, who wants to watch a show about a show getting made, right? Like, a show about shows. But the truth about this is, whenever you watch those behind-the-scenes making of a show, they actually dump information that we didn't readily know about. So in fact, it may be one of these things where the show comes out and it actually gives us this kind of teaser or tells us what direction things may go in because it's a plot point that they were saving for a later date. For example, Princess Leia might become relevant in the future of the Star Wars universe before the events of Episode 4. She was kind of useful in, oh my god, Rogue One. That's what it was. I keep thinking Rogue Squadron. Every time I think of Rogue One, I think of Rogue Squadron, probably because that video game on the N64 was one of the best video games ever, but it was actually better for the PlayStation if you had a joystick. And if you had the Naboo fighter. Do you guys remember the Naboo fighter from Rogue Squadron? That thing was OP. Like, it was ridiculously overpowered. I think maybe it was only available for the PC, although maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was also available for the N64. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that thing was a monster. It was ridiculously fast and ridiculously overpowered. But I digress. It may be one of those things where it just kind of gives us plot points for the future of where Star Wars may go, especially considering the relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. But the final one that we're getting is on September 21st, and I'm really excited about this because Andor is the first real Star Wars show that we're getting that's not based on the Skywalker saga. Because I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm kind of tired of the Skywalker saga. We've literally been getting that since 1999, and really, if you want to go back further, since like the 70s and 80s. But the reality here is that I think that what we could get with Andor is just world building, and it looks like it's going to be great. I'm really excited for it. Now, one thing to be aware of, all 3 episodes, or at least the first 3 episodes, are releasing in the same day. So you get 3 hours of Andor, and then we go into episode 4 the following week. Now, again, there is a whole list. We'll have that list down in the description so you guys can see everything that's coming out. But moving on to our next topic, Matt Reeves and Bruce Timm's project, The Caped Crusader, is looking for a new home, apparently, and there are 2 viable options here. Now, one thing to understand about Batman the Caped Crusader is that this is not a remake of Batman the Animated Series. It's not really designed to replace that, although it does not have Paul Dini attached to it, and Paul Dini and Bruce Timm were the ones who initially launched Batman the Animated Series. The Matt Reeves Bruce Timm project is designed to be a reworking of the Batman mythos in animated form. Now, most likely because Matt Reeves is part of the project, it's going to basically build the kind of Robert Pattinson Batman world that they are presumably familiar with. But the truth is, with Discovery going through after their acquisition of Warner Brothers and just taking a hatchet to everything, right? Just axing everything, that the Caped Crusader seems to be a part of that. Now, unlike Batgirl, which was just outright canceled and is not going to be released in any capacity, it seems that Warner Brothers and Discovery are fine with somebody else working on the project and it basically being removed financially from their hands. So at the moment, it's being shopped around. Again, Netflix and Disney are the 2 top people that are in talks to get a hold of it. I'm not going to lie, it seemed a little strange to see like a Batman project on Disney, which is the home of Marvel. But at the same time, whoever gets their hands on it, it's gonna be the smart move. It's a smart move for Netflix because their entire streaming service is just a laboring beast gasping for breath, as evidenced by the fact that they're just canceling everything. Literally, they're cutting down. They're doing the TV show equivalent of a company basically laying everybody off, or at least reducing their workforce by a huge percentage. That's basically what Netflix is doing. It's smart for Disney because they'll just continue to make money hand over fist. But whoever it ends up going to, I'm excited for it. This might be one of those very rare instances where Netflix gets it. I fire my Netflix subscription up for like a month, watch it, and then cancel it again, right? You know, how everybody used to do with WWE Network back in the day whenever WrestleMania came on. But moving away from movies and TV shows and stuff, as we normally used to do here on the Rumor Roundup, and as we'll continue to do here on the Rumor Roundup, let's transition over to gaming, specifically because of the fact that Gamescom has wrapped up. Now, for those of you guys who aren't really familiar with Gamescom, it's a giant gaming convention, and really, I would say after the cancellation of E3, it's kind of the new E3, right? The big gaming convention where everybody shows up and they all talk about their projects and different things like that. Now, depending on who you talk to, some people will say that Gamescom was a snooze fest this year. And the reality is that when it comes to things like Gamescom, that one's probably also going to die off too. The reason for that being the same reason that E3 died off. Why would everybody show up to a convention and then compete for the audience, you know, Xbox, PlayStation, all that kind of stuff, when they could all just host their own events and probably do it cheaper than they can having to like show up to E3, set up a great big huge booth, different things like that. They already own studios, they already own the space. Why not just do it in-house? It's always more affordable to do things in-house than it is to basically go outside of your home and hire people to do things for you. And so regarding the different projects that we saw, one of the things that we got here was Sonic Frontiers. Now, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with that, Sonic Frontiers is basically a Sonic open world game. Now, as much excitement as there was about Sonic Frontiers, there was also a little bit of controversy. So one of the things we got was like new cutscenes, we got some new mechanics that allowed you to see how Sonic could maneuver in this new open world game. But we also got something called cyberspace levels, which is basically just a remix of previous levels from previous Sonic games. And the truth about this is a lot of Sonic fans just blasted Sega on Twitter, calling them lazy and just saying like it's a really lazy thing. Instead of developing new content, they're literally just reworking old content. And in truth, I can see where fans are coming from. That one of the things video game fans do not want is for the video games industry to become Hollywood, where instead of producing new things, they just remake and rework old stuff. And in truth, that's kind of what we're seeing around the video game franchises. We're seeing situations where video game companies are just remaking old games instead of creating new games. That's why a lot of people are turning to the indie game landscape to just find new and interesting things, because for AAA titles, either it's a game as a service where they're just nickel and diming you for everything, or it's just rehashes and remakes and reworks and whatever of all the stuff you've already seen. The other part of this is that while the game itself was billed as this just massive project where players could just play, seemingly endlessly, that within the timed gameplay, the timed demo that somebody was playing at Gamescom, they actually beat the first level when they weren't supposed to. They beat it faster than expected. Now, a lot of that's also because they're super hardcore Sonic fans and they're really, really good at being able to time speed or speed run through those individual levels. But the other part of this is that there was apparently a glitch that was revealed during this time, and Sega banned anybody from being able to record anything else at Gamescom. Now, in truth, that's not uncommon. It happens sometimes. Sometimes it's due to something egregious. For example, when Assassin's Creed Black Flag was demoed at E3, the game wasn't ready, but Sony basically forced the demo anyway, and the game crashed. At least I'm pretty sure it was Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So it's not that uncommon to see this kind of a thing unfold where sometimes bugs popped up, different things like that. I mean, at this point in the video game landscape, we're used to games being shipped in a semi-broken state and then being nickel and dime to get the completed version of the game. Whether it's a business decision or it's just poor development, it's really up to how you interpret it. But sometimes these things happen, so I'm not really too bent out of shape over that. But following that, we got the Dune Awakening trailer, which is a video game based in the Dune universe. Honestly, I'm really excited about this. I would by no means say that I'm an expert when it comes to the Dune mythos. I'm really not. I've seen the original movie, I saw the new movie with Denis Villeneuve, at least part one, and that's about as far as my knowledge goes, right? House Atreides, The Spice Must Flow, a couple memes here and there, but that's basically it. Looking at the video game, it looks phenomenal. Now, whether or not it'll be phenomenal, we'll simply have to wait until it comes out, right? I mean, Overkill's The Walking Dead looked amazing. When it came out, it was a dumpster fire. But having said that, I'm really hoping this game looks, or at least plays, as good as it looks, and I've got faith in it. Right? I believe this game is going to be a good game. Regardless, all we really got was a trailer reveal and just this revelation, or at least we've kind of known for a little while that it's just a giant MMO game, but I'm excited for it. Of course, if you guys are interested, beta signups are currently open. Now, the other thing we got here is that on February 3rd in 2023, we're finally going to get Dead Island 2. And I gotta tell you guys, I get that Dead Island had just a series of issues when that game came out. It was glitchy, it was buggy, right? It had some major problems, and they fixed it. I loved Dead Island, and one of the things I loved the most about the Dead Island game was the drop-in, drop-out mechanic. So for those of you guys who don't know what that was, literally anybody who was on your friends list and had Dead Island could just jump into your game wherever you happen to be. Now, there were certain jump-in, drop-in, drop-out points. It couldn't just be arbitrary. You kind of had to go to a point where they'd be able to jump in and jump out, but they could just join you, and it was great. I loved Dead Island. I had an absolute blast playing that game. Sure, it had problems, but those problems were easily rectified. Dead Island 2 really struggled and went through development hell, and we might make a video talking about that as we get closer to the release date of the video game, but I'm excited, right? I think that'd make a great editorial video, to be honest with you guys, but I'm excited for it. I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. And honestly, I might just kind of send out some invites and just say, hey, does anybody want to play Dead Island 2 with me? We can just goof around, kill some bosses, fight some zombies, and just kind of call it a day. Now, later on in February, actually on February 28th in 2023, the Lightfall expansion for Destiny 2 is going to be coming out. Now, here's the funny thing. I lived and died by Destiny, right? I played the first Destiny game, and I lived on that game, right? I was ridiculously good at Crucible in that game. I kind of miss having that 7 point something KD. I think it was 7.2 KD. I was nuts in Crucible on Destiny 1. Just ridiculous. But a lot of that was because I was coming out of Call of Duty, and while Destiny was not really a twitch shooter in terms of Crucible, it wasn't really that far removed. It felt more like Halo than anything else. So I was able to navigate myself pretty well. But I did love the first Destiny game. Destiny 2, I played the hell out of that game. I actually dropped off before the new expansion came out, and I don't even remember what the new expansion is called, but I dropped off before that expansion came out. The funny thing about it is a lot of people, once I got back on, and I got back on maybe like a week ago, a lot of people were talking about how the new expansion feels a lot like the Taken King from Destiny 1. It's like this wholesale reworking, they're introducing all kinds of new mechanics, and the game is as enjoyable as it's been in years, or at least more enjoyable than it's been in years. Like, people love it now. Now again, how long that's gonna last, I'm not entirely sure, but I am getting back into it. So I am excited for the Lightfall expansion. One of the big complaints that I've heard about Destiny recently is that unless you buy the expansion, they charge you for like each individual raid, they charge you for each individual dungeon, they nickel and dime the hell out of you. And I can certainly see how that's driving casual players away, because it's one thing for people to say, okay, look, it's fair if like I get the expansions and stuff, or I get the dungeons and so on, maybe like a month later, right? Because the people who are paying for it get it right now. But to say that like you'll never get it unless you pay for it, that pisses people off, right? There is such a thing as nickel and diming people to the point where you actually alienate them from your product. And I think that's one of the issues, or at least I understand that to be one of the issues that Destiny 2 is being plagued with. But at the end of the day, gaming is no longer about creating games that people enjoy. It's about creating games that people keep paying for. And so it's just kind of the situation that we're in. The alternative is to just stop buying AAA games and focusing on indie games, which in all honesty, I think that's gonna become a massive shift here in about the next 5 years or so. But following that, and actually kind of taking a step back and moving into this year, right, which is October 21st in 2022, we are getting new tales from the Borderlands. And the reality about this is, I'm a little on the fence. I don't want to be like a negative Nancy this episode. I really hope I'm not coming off that way. It's gonna be a Telltale style game. Now, it's not gonna be produced by Telltale Games. They're defunct, right? They went belly up like 3 years ago. I think they were acquired recently, but Telltale Games as we knew them, right? When they made The Walking Dead, they're gone, right? But it's gonna be a game that's gonna feel like a Telltale's game. If I'm being honest with you guys, I feel like Borderlands peaked with Borderlands 2 and just never quite recovered. It just never really seemed to reach its level of popularity. Now, I think a lot of that's because Borderlands 2 came out at that point in time when it was just sort of the golden age of gaming for like modern gamers. So when you look at things like, like BioShock Infinite, things like that, like all those games kind of seem to come out around the same time. And so it was a really great time to be a gamer. But in reality, I mean, I want to play it. You know, I want to see what it's like. I'm not going to write it off and just call it like a really crappy game, but I am excited to see what this game looks like. But having said that, for all you guys out there who are Andrew Garfield fans, right, transitioning back into movies, those of you guys out there who are Andrew Garfield fans, this is our final story here, right? This is us wrapping up this episode with really kind of a big revelation. So at the time we're recording this video, this week, this coming Thursday/Friday, that we get Spider-Man No Way Home released back into theaters, but it's gonna have bonus footage that was not there in the first film. Now, this may or may not be a spoiler to you, so just be aware going forward. There is apparently a scene in that movie when Andrew Garfield makes the offhand remark in saying, we should team up again. And the response of Tobey Maguire is, we definitely will. And so what this has done is it's basically led people to believe that Andrew Garfield is going to return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man landscape, not the Sony landscape. He might get his own Sony film. I don't really know. I mean, that's one of those things that's kind of rumored, and I don't think we definitively know for sure. We know a project's in the works, but how far reaching it's gonna be, I don't think we definitively know. Not until anything is officially announced by Sony, and we likely get a trailer. But the thing about this is having Andrew Garfield return to the Spider-Man Marvel Cinematic Universe landscape really begs the question, what form is that going to take? If I'm a betting man, I would bet all the money in my pockets, all the money in your pockets, that we're still gonna get this giant Spider-Verse type event. We already have it being built up, right? Like Into the Spider-Verse, Beyond Spider-Verse, like different things like that. Like we're already getting that, right? We're already getting this kind of buildup of the different Spider characters throughout the multiverse, whether it's small little cameos or major roles like what we saw with Miles and Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham and Spider-Gwen. But regardless, I could definitely see them building up to just some giant Spider-Verse centric event. And the rumors are that they are. And so it'd be interesting, albeit a little bit strange, to see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland teaming up as their real life counterparts with like animated Miles Morales and animated Miguel O'Hara, who we'll see in the new Spider-Verse film, and like Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Gwen, all of whom are animated, potentially with other live-action versions of Spider-Man that we simply haven't seen yet. It'll be a cool thing, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. There's a lot of stuff that they can do there, because one of the things to know is that what they did with regards to Spider-Man No Way Home and Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire returning to their own universes, it's exactly what happened at the end of Spider-Verse, right? The original Dr. Octopus Superior Spider-Man story. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with that, let's turn our heads to comic books for a second, and let's talk about how this unfolded. So Spider-Verse was actually a giant comic book event that took place between 2 issues of Superior Spider-Man when Dr. Octopus got the body of Peter Parker. But when that story ended, like you literally read Superior Spider-Man by itself, he ends up disappearing due to some massive energy-based explosion at Horizon Labs, and then just reappears at the end of that issue, and then just talks about how crazy everything was. You don't know what actually happened if you only read Superior Spider-Man, but if you go and you read Spider-Verse, you end up finding out he was thrown into the multiverse, and in his efforts to get back to the main Marvel universe, he ended up coming across these alternate realities and realizing that the different Spider-Men of these alternate realities were being killed by somebody, and that leads into the Spider-Verse event. Now that dealt with the Inheritors and all that kind of stuff, a guy named Karn and so on and so forth, and God, Solace was a really cool villain. I don't care what anybody says. But the important thing about this is that it was basically a story that took place within a particular, like just within a larger story arc itself. And you wouldn't know unless you read that particular story. You could easily do that with like Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. You could have a whole series of films play out where literally before Andrew Garfield got back to his own universe, all this stuff happened, right? He was thrown, like he was literally sent back to his own universe by Doctor Strange or whatever it was, but ended up being thrown into the multiverse due to the multiverse coming back in the events of Loki, and it threw him off course, and he ended up in an alternate reality, and that he was literally bouncing from one alternate reality to the other, trying to get back to his own, and along the way, that's how you're introduced to all these live-action versions of Spider-Man. You can do the same thing with Tobey Maguire, so you're kind of doubling up, right? So you get like Spider-Punk, or you get like all these different versions of Peter Parker, some of whom are evil, some of whom are good guys, right? You get the same thing with Tobey Maguire, he does the exact same thing, so literally, over the course of this film, you build up the Spider-Man mythos, so that when you have this great big huge Spider-Verse event, suddenly you get the return of this particular Spider-Man that you saw in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man film, who only showed up for about 5 minutes, 20 minutes into the movie. Like, it's one of those cool things that they could do. Whether they will or not, I have no idea. But the fact remains here that that's kind of the big thing, or at least one of the big things you're gonna see. And if that's a reveal that we get in the new Spider-Man No Way Home film, I'm excited to see what else we get. It's not gonna be like an extra hour's worth of footage, right? It's literally like they're literally re-releasing this as a cash grab because they know it's gonna make money. And it will. Because we're gonna go back and see it. We wanna relive those moments, right? Those nostalgic moments. We were all watching the first film and they team up, right? You know, Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3, like we wanna see all that stuff, right? We just wanna relive all those moments. And I think it'll be a blast. I'm really excited to do that again. But with that being said, guys, this concludes our inaugural return episode of the Rumor Roundup with our new set. Got a little bit of greenery because some of you guys said that I needed a plant here. I'm gonna replace this with a sign. That's what I'm gonna do. And I think I might change the messaging on the sign from time to time. I think it'd be kind of funny. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.